You're ready. All right. Nice work, Marty.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Analytically Correct. We're here at Public House on University with Tyler here again.
Fat Rob is back.
Fat Rob's back, and Stretch as always. We're going to start this week talking about kind of a continuation of what we were talking about last week a little bit. Over the weekend, last week I kind of was saying that the MVP race was pretty much over. Giannis had it sewed up. And over the weekend, I'm not a big fan of like prisoner of the moment stuff when it comes to like 2 games. I mean, it's an 82 game season.
Right.
So maybe to revise what I said last week, I still think Giannis should win, and there's still games left to be played. So it's gonna be decided now in the last 2 weeks or a month.
So you don't think that the end of the season is going to make a difference to what that MVP race is going to be
that's what
like?
I'm saying. We have to wait. And not only, I think Giannis, based on what he's done so far, should still be the leader. But based on this weekend, for people listening, the Lakers played the Clippers, and they also played the Bucks. Won both games.
Back to back too.
Back to back, yeah.
You don't win back to back in this league anymore.
We talked about it last week. If you play in a back to back, you might as well not even play. Just don't show up, because apparently nobody can win if it's back to back now. But yeah, LeBron was really good in both games. Giannis kind of hurt his knee over the weekend too, so that could affect things with who's out and everything like that. And like I said, I still stand by what I said as far as I think Giannis will win, but I'm kind of more in the camp now of like, we see how the media can be influenced by just those 2 games, like 2 high-profile matchups.
Right.
People do seem to forget, though, with the Lakers and everything, that this is the first time they won against the Clippers this year. They lost the first 2. I know the first game was on the first game of the season, so whatever you can take from that, it's not necessarily like something you can take away from the whole season, because it was 70 games ago.
So what do you think if Giannis comes out, ended up missing more than a couple games, and the Bucks just kind of not tank, but they go 500 without him? Does that help his case then?
Well, I don't think they'll go 500 without him, but like I know what you're saying is like, well, if he's not out there and they start losing without him, like that should kind of almost bolster his case.
Right.
But one of those cliches, and I even hate to say it, but Jeff that we used to work with, he always said like,
one hell of a guy.
He said one of the greatest abilities is availability, and you can't knock Giannis for that. Like if it came down weird and tweaked his knee. If they're so far ahead in the East that if they didn't play him even until the playoffs, just out of precaution, I wouldn't have a problem with that. They're going to wind up playing somebody like the Nets in the first round, where they're probably going to sweep them. They'll be favored by like 15 points in every game. And then you get into the whole rest versus rust thing. But there is this narrative, and we keep going back to the Kobe Bryant thing, but this whole aura around the Lakers, like if LeBron wins one this year for the Lakers, for Kobe, it's even that much more special than it would have been normally.
So you think he deserves the MVP at that point?
I would, rather than say deserve, I think it's more of a media award than anything. It's kind of like if you go back and think about this season in 5 years, people kind of get bored, as I've always said, about voting for the same guy. So like even though Giannis' season this year is better than his season last year, people don't necessarily like to give it back to, like people get bored. Like once the Bucks weren't able to crack that like 72 win mark or whatever the record is, people kind of are like, all right, we'll just wait for the playoffs to see for the Bucks. With LeBron, it's almost more like, okay, we're going to see, he beats the Clippers now he beats Giannis head-to-head, and he has more of a head of steam going into the end of the season. I'm more in the camp now than I was last week of like, let's just wait and see how the rest of the season plays out. My thing was, at the time, I thought there was nothing that anybody could do to catch him, but the way that the media is looking at this LeBron season, I think, and if you look at some of his stats as far as playing, like I think it's 50,000 minutes or 60,000 minutes, the only guys that he's still chasing as far as that goes are like Karl Malone and I think Kareem. Okay. You're talking about centers at that point, not even primary ball handlers.
Right, but I mean, is all right. So the stat that Giannis has for him is the PER stat that they have, the player efficiency rating being the second highest of all time right now.
The highest of all time.
Right.
Yeah.
I think after the last 2 games, it became the second highest.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So my argument towards that is that, I mean, obviously it's a fantastic stat, and his shooting percentage is ridiculously good. But when it comes down to an elite defender covering him, he still gets his points, but his efficiency rating goes way down.
Right. So if we were to make the argument on the case of both guys, I would say that LeBron is not. When we look at who LeBron has as his teammate, he has Anthony Davis. The second best on the Bucks is going to be Chris Middleton. And a lot of times LeBron doesn't have to take like the toughest defensive assignment. Giannis isn't necessarily always doing that either, but he does have the best defensive win shares in the NBA, which is basically a metric that tells you like how good a guy is on defense, and it's not even close. And nobody's going to fault like what LeBron's doing right now at the age he's doing it, and you don't even have to throw in that qualifier. Like what he's doing, forget the age or anything like that, to still be like at this level in his career, it helps to have Anthony Davis, sure, and I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth, but it's a closer race than I would have thought last week. Like this weekend is pretty much all LeBron could have done to bring the race closer.
No, I think like this weekend it definitely leveled the playing field on that, and then from here on out, that's going to win the MVP. So the only thing that I have is LeBron still can go get a shot against anybody. Giannis, I mean, he still can, but watching those two games, it just didn't. I mean, just the one game against the Lakers, it didn't look like he could not shoot from outside whatsoever.
Giannis, you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's the same offense that people kind of were worrying about last year in the playoffs, that when it came down to it and you just wall off the free throw line, is Giannis going to be able to make a shot? Because for most of that game, what would happen is they'd wall it off at the free throw line with three guys, and then Giannis is just kind of kicking it out. And if you're relying on Dante DiVincenzo to make threes to win a championship, people are going to want to see that.
He played a good-ass game against the Lakers, though.
No, yeah, I'm going to always hate him because of obvious reasons.
Of course. No, but I mean, he no, that when he played the Raptors, they used the box and one against him the entire time, and it just killed anything that way, because it would force Giannis to not have the ball in his hand at all.
Right.
And that's what every team that has athletes that are tall enough, they just do that, and you saw what happened. They're not an efficient team with anybody athletic enough to cover him, you know?
Yeah, you and Stretch kind of were arguing about this last week after the podcast about the box and one and how it's kind of like a gimmicky defense and all that kind of stuff. And you were kind of the White West. Oh no, he's not the. Come on. Bomani calls him White Dante. But yeah, I think it's fair to say, like, until you see it in the playoffs with Giannis. But I mean, getting back to it, it is a regular season award, so I'm excited to see that it's going to come down. I don't know if they play each other again. I doubt it because they're in different conferences. But
so, do you think the Finals MVP means more?
Yeah, in most cases, because that's like the highest level of competition. Everybody knows that in the playoffs, the game slows down, and you're probably at that point guarding the other team's best guy if you are LeBron or if you are Giannis. Other than the case of the year that Iguodala won it, which probably should have been Steph, but it was just a weird thing where people thought he guarded LeBron. But in most cases, when you see Finals MVPs, I mean, when you look back at guys' careers, that's almost more important than like regular season MVPs, because obviously if you win the Finals MVP, you probably won the championship.
Right.
I will say one thing, and that's I'm
Patrick Beverley.
What about it?
Coming out saying that LeBron ain't nobody to cover.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
No, he said LeBron is not a problem to guard, and then then he goes out there and he's like the second worst plus minus guy while he's on the court.
Are you retarded?
I mean, I just what's the point of saying that? Like, everybody knows it's not
right.
true.
You just lost.
You know
I get that you're
true.
pissed off. Like,
but
man.
at the same time, that's what Patrick Beverley does. Like, that's who he is. He got into it with Westbrook earlier this season, and then I think it was Westbrook or Lillard, but I think Westbrook came out and then like dominated him after that or something like that.
What does that do? Add the fuel to the fire to anybody? Like, yeah, you want to get in somebody's head, but in the same respect, you were not.
When you got into his head, it
right.
was a negative effect for your team.
Absolutely.
He and Montrezl Harrell in that game were like the biggest negatives as far as plus minus goes. So I do think after watching that, MVP aside, I kind of am thinking, like, I know it's the betting favorite, but the Lakers are looking really good for a championship right now. Milwaukee, obviously, their best case is that the East is better than it has been. He said that Patrick Beverley's just out there running around. He's not actually playing defense. He's just like moving around a lot.
He's always there.
But yeah, as far as the championship odds go, like when it gets to the playoffs, if LeBron's going to be playing like this, and then I think when they won over the weekend, both of those games, they shot like 6 of 32 and like 5 of 30 from 3. So if you're like the only team in the league that can win without having to shoot lights out from 3,
exactly,
and LeBron can have an off night and Anthony Davis can step up, it's going to come down to, are the Clippers going to step up in the playoffs? Is Paul George going to become playoff P, like he likes to crown himself? I just think you can't count out Kawhi. And it's,
so you know it's pretty much those two teams going to be in the Western Conference Finals. Like I mean, there's always outside shots.
That's what everybody wants. Yeah. I mean,
it's just what it looks like.
Denver's always under the radar. But
Dallas looks good.
But if it comes down to like Jokic or even for the Jazz at Gobert, if those guys are going against Anthony Davis, it's not really
good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, Dallas has the length to support it, but in the same respect, the argument is Dallas has never been there. Like that team has never been there. So what are they going to do?
Right. So Kenny Atkinson also got fired from the Nets. I think that was over the weekend as well. The whole thing with that is that people are kind of overreacting, and that he was like a media favorite. You know, there's guys who their source is like coaches or assistant coaches. So whenever that guy is up for a job to get hired or he gets hired, these media people are like, oh, it's a great hire. But if Kyrie and Durant didn't want you as the coach in the first place, then you were never going to be the coach to begin with. And this whole thing with Durant and Kyrie, it was never about this year. It's about next year. And as Skinny Rob or just regular Rob would say, I mean, he was fit Rob. There you go. It was
I fit in my pants today.
It was all about next year, and we'll see. Durant's supposed to come back healthy to start the season. It doesn't bode well for Kenny Atkinson that he's already been put out there as maybe the Knicks' next head coach. So that's never a good thing. And Ty Lue has been floated out there. It'll be interesting to see if Ty Lue actually wants to coach Kyrie again.
Right.
Or I mean, obviously it's a coaching job. Like there's only 30 of them, like everybody always says. But it's going to be one of the more interesting teams to watch starting next season. But to me, if you're letting Kyrie like control who you're hiring at this point, that's a mistake. I mean, if it's Durant, that's one thing. But
right, but what has Kyrie essentially proven by himself?
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, you can also say that he was in Cleveland. I mean, he wanted to have his own team and be the guy.
Well, and then he came out and said, "Hey, it's hard being the number one guy. Like it's not what I was, you know." So it didn't help him in any respect. Like to have LeBron off his team, it hurt him.
No, yeah, he wanted to be the guy in Boston, and basically he
shit the bed.
Yeah, but there were injuries that happened, and basically I don't know. If you're building around him at that point, I don't think it's a great thing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else from the NBA. One thing that I was worried about, and I don't want to be like all get medical and talk about the coronavirus because I don't know what the fuck's going on. I don't think anyone does, but when I heard that they're doing like games in empty stadiums, the first thing I thought about, like selfishly, because I'm young, I have a good immune system, I think I'll be all right. I mean, whatever.
You sure?
I'm not, have you ever seen me sick before? Everybody who knows me knows about my immune system. It's a great immune system. It's the best immune system.
It's the best. It's the best immune system.
Immune system. And if you believe that guy, there's going to be a cure in like 1 month anyways, even though everybody else. But anyways, that's besides the point.
Let's go there. Let's go there right now.
No, absolutely not. What I was more worried about is March Madness, and I'm like, okay, if you want to play the games in empty stadiums, that kind of takes a little bit away from it. But like, once you start talking about this thing affecting like my March Madness, that's when I really started getting worried. I'm like, this is really an epidemic. We need to no, but seriously, like. March Madness, I've said it a bunch of times, is probably more than the Super Bowl, more than the NBA Finals, more than almost anything, is probably like my favorite sporting event. If I had the money, I would take the first 4 days off of work and just sit there and eat pizza and drink beer all day and watch basketball from midnight and from noon until midnight. They were showing some of the Kemba Walker highlights, and I remember that. I can't believe how long ago it is now. And it's good to see him actually like on a team that matters.
God, I hate Kemba Walker for that for March Madness so much.
Yeah, but I was gonna say like to bring up some of like your March Madness memories. I mean, you're a Gator fan, so you have a couple of good ones, obviously.
Yeah.
For me, it's like the most fun time, and I won't spam Chase's bracket there, but he brought up the March Madness thing, which kind of got me thinking about it. And it's to me like the most fun time of year. Everyone pretends they know.
Well, everybody thinks they have something.
Everybody pretends they know anything about college basketball. Like they've watched any games other than their own team. And everyone fills out a bracket and they think that that's going to be the winner. And then it's the person who hasn't watched a game all season.
You got 98% correct for the first round. Wow, good shit.
Right.
Cool.
No, and then you're always watching all the games, and when it comes down, you get your first loss. You're like, damn, there goes my perfect bracket. Like you were ever going to have a perfect bracket.
There goes my million that I was going to get.
But you have that irrational thing in your head where it's like, damn, there goes my chance. And it's like, you never had a chance.
Yeah, but that's the reason why you play every year. It's just it's bragging right.
I'm excited also this year as far as like the Big Ten goes. I didn't even know what seed Michigan was going to be going into the Big Ten tournament. We're like an 8 or 9 seed. But like Wisconsin's number 1 right now. Anybody can win the Big Ten tournament, and I had that's what I wanted to pull up was the odds for the championship. If you're into betting at all, the favorite is Kansas. Kansas is like plus 550, which is like 5.5 to 1. But that's pretty good odds for the favorite. Like if you think they're going to win, you're getting 5.5 to 1. You see, like there's not very many other teams that are in like the single digits as far as the odds go.
Well, I think because Kansas in the last month of the season has really put themselves out front. Everybody else is dog eat dog.
Right, but by no means, like when I'm saying the favorite's 5.5 to 1, usually the favorite is like even money or 2 to 1 or something like that. Like if it's one of those Duke teams going
Right.
into it. Right now, there was a time when people thought North Carolina wouldn't even make the tournament, and now they're 23 to 1. So if you're into like betting at all, there's definitely some value in
Find the hot team.
find a hot team, whoever's that. But you got to kind of predict it before they win their conference tournament.
Right.
Because like Michigan a couple of times has come in around a 5-6 seed in their tournament, and then they're at one thing, and then by the time they get hot and win their conference tournament, you know, you're not getting the value anymore. But I have
like Texas Tech last year.
yeah, and then you see a bunch of those guys wind up going and getting drafted, and they're actually pretty good. But people aren't watching Texas Tech basketball in the middle of the season. But I'm excited because it's going to be one of those seasons where it's like anybody can win. It's not one of those heavy Duke favorites, which
Right.
I always hate. Virginia's up there, I think. Louisville. I'm trying to pull up the odds here for the championship. But how are the Gators looking so far?
They're so
while I
bad.
pull this up? They suck. I mean,
They don't suck. They almost beat Kentucky, but they almost beat everybody, it seems like. They're
Right.
always in every single game, but it's in the same respect. They lose.
Oh,
So-
yeah, I can't even pull it up right now because all the conference tournaments are going on right now.
No, I think they're at the point where it's the only way they can get in is if they make it to the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. You never know. It could happen.
it can happen. We were preseason ranked number 6 in the nation, so there's that.
MVP of immune systems. The MVIS. Quick XFL news. It was the Roughnecks are starting to separate themselves a little bit. Stretch informed me that Bomani Jones is a Roughnecks fan. That kind of makes sense. Battlehawks lost, Roughnecks won. So now I don't know with how many games left. They're probably close to clinching a playoff spot because they're 5-0. I think they only played 10 games.
They get first round buys.
I'm not actually sure how it works, honestly. Chase said Gators are in no matter what. No, you don't think so? I mean, teams like that, like they're saying that there's like 10 teams in the Big Ten that could get it, and it sounds like
It's just the SEC is not strong
yeah,
at all. So when I think about it, I'm like, yes, so I want to see the Gators in there, but realistically, I'm just like, I've seen how they've played. When they're on, they're fucking on.
Yeah, I think right now
They're so hot and cold.
Dayton, Gonzaga are projected to be 1 seed. So I mean, you're getting Dayton as a 1 seed, and no disrespect to Dayton, but
It's Dayton.
I mean, you have to look at who you played throughout the season, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've watched a bunch of Flyers basketball.
We got to see who's Giannis has played for the whole season too.
No, come on. When people say that, like the East is not like it used to be. It's not like when LeBron was there, where it was like, oh, everybody knew that the East, whoever came out of the West was like the Western Conference
But
Finals.
the West is easily stronger than the East still.
I don't think it's a way you could say easily. I mean, the 76ers have kind of fallen off, but that's due to injuries. Like, who's pull up the standings? Who's fourth in the West right now? Is that? I mean, the Rockets I think are like 6th. That's probably stronger than the East 6th. Let me pull up the standings real quick.
Yeah, but who would you rather play if you're the top 4 seeds in the East?
No,
and you're any of the,
Oh, I thought that was Chase that posted that. He's trying to post his bracket here. I do want people to join it. I mean, whatever, but yeah. What were you saying?
no, it's like if you're any team in the West, you would love to play any of the bottom 4 of the 8 seeds in the East easily. You're in the West and you're playing any of the bottom 4 to 8 or 5 to 8 seeds. You're like those teams are drastically more terrible than
Right, but I don't think any of the bottom 4 seeds are going to win in either conference. I don't think it's like one of those years. I mean, like we said, the Bucks are going to be playing the Nets probably. They're going to be favored by like 15
Yeah, but the
points.
Lakers will end up probably playing either the Grizzlies or
Right.
the Pelicans.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, when you're looking at like strength of conference, you're looking at top 4, 5, maybe 6. Like the 4-5 matchup, 4 or 5 is usually pretty evenly matched. It just depends who has home court.
I just think there's more room for upsets in the West.
Yeah, well, I have the standings here. I mean, I think the Heat are a team. We'll just wait till I get the standings pulled up. So, I mean, right now, if the first round started to be Lakers, Grizzlies, there's no way. Mavericks, Clippers. I mean, you know, the Mavericks, if it was like Mavericks, Nuggets, or Mavericks, Jazz, or any of these other teams, I would say they have a chance. But against the Clippers and Kawhi, I love Doncic. And when we did our top 10 list before the season, I think I put Doncic in my...
How shit the Rockets have played this past week, that can easily switch very soon.
Right. Well, the Rockets are a weird team in that. Yeah, I'm just going based off of what it is right now, because you have the Jazz. The Jazz are 41 wins, and then the 7 seed is 39 wins. So it could easily flip flop. But I'm just going based off of these teams, and I think when you get down to 4-5, Jazz, Thunder, I think that could possibly be an upset. Rockets, Nuggets. I think the Nuggets are just a better team. If the Rockets go out there and shoot 63s and they make like 30 of them, then they're probably going to win.
So you think the Nuggets make the 2 seed, or if Memphis or Dallas ends up playing the Nuggets, what do you think happens there?
Dallas is a good team for an upset, because the only reason that their record's not better is, and I know a lot of teams can talk about injuries, but when Luka is like by far your best player, and I know Porzingis has come along this season, but when Luka is like by far your best player, he's missed some time. So if you factor that into some of these games, they could almost easily be the 2 seed in the Mavericks.
Right.
So I mean, if you want to look over at the Western Conference, I'm not saying that the East is better. I'm just saying it's not like, so you have the 76ers as a 6 seed, but look what they don't have Embiid or Simmons. Simmons might not even come back for the rest of the season when you're talking about his back injury. Then you get into Nets and Magic, and I think both of those teams are trash. But Pacers and Heat, I don't think those teams are that much worse than like Thunder or Utah. Like, I don't think it's that big of a difference. I mean, Thunder, it's a pretty good story. You have Chris Paul back on liking to play basketball on a team that Peter with the Bachelor upset. No, get that out of here. We're not talking about that. It'd be a surprising crossover if people that watch this podcast and also watch The Bachelor. But yeah, there it is. I had a bet for the Heat actually to win the championship. I mean, that's like a long shot, but it was pretty good odds at the time.
Put 25 down?
Yeah, it was like to win like 6,000 or something like that.
Tough bet, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Francisco Lindor, have you seen what he was talking about today?
No.
Said that he wants $400 million or something like that.
What?
Yep. That's what he said. I'll try to pull it up here.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll believe you on that, but him? I'm not saying Lindor is a bad player.
Right.
Lindor is
like
fantastic.
23 or 24. Like, I think
$400 million.
I think, and this is kind of why I wanted to talk about it, is to get into the larger conversation with you. Not over like Lindor's value by himself. And everybody don't tune out because it's baseball. We'll talk about football here in a second. But I just wanted to get this in because I saw him talking about it. And I wanted to get in a larger conversation, not of whether or not Lindor is worth $400 million. I want to get into more, as a Cubs fan, would you pay anybody $400 million?
No.
So
No,
let's say Mike Trout, you would
There
pay
is
$400
there's one player that you could think about it,
Mike
and it's
Trout.
Mike Trout. Everybody else does not earn. No. Fuck no.
Even when people talk about the TV money and that you make it back and all that kind of stuff.
Does it matter though? Like, you could get such a better roster just by adding,
like Stretch was arguing with you last week, there's no salary cap, so I mean,
there's a luxury tax.
he said,
Man, that's a lot of money.
tax.
I'm just saying. It's not like you're not going to make it back, but I'm just saying owners they got there for a reason.
But that's my whole thing, is that sometimes fans are like, like you're saying you don't.
All right, going back on a hindsight, would you have given Bryce Harper that money?
I mean, everyone thought it was too much at the time, but if you, like I said, if you win one World Series, like if the Angels win one World Series, it was worth it to sign Trout. If you're the Angels, and we're talking about maybe the only exception, but you can't just let a guy like that go just because there's not going to be any owner who.
What proves this more in baseball is that Bryce Harper left the Nationals for a shit ton of money,
and then they
win the chip.
Right. But if you go back to think about it, that doesn't mean if he would have stayed, they would not have won the championship.
I mean, it means Juan Soto's not playing every day.
Right.
So there's that. And Rendon doesn't get in the 3 spot, which I'm not going to say their bullpen sucked horrendously, which went against the mold of what the last 5 or 6 World Series winners have been, which is strong bullpen and then hitting.
Right.
But this was all hitting, great starting pitching, which is valued, I think, is the best value you can get in a championship, in a champion, is starting pitching.
The thing to me is when you pay a lot, and I've said it a million times, but when you pay these guys these contracts, you're not paying it to get the value at the end. You're paying it for the years that they're in their prime, and you're not going to ever get those years if you don't pay them up front. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right,
so
but when have big contracts ever paid out in baseball?
No, and that's kind of what I wanted to get into as far as like, when do you think the tipping point is? I mean, we saw what Yelich signed, and going back to that Yelich thing that we talked about, and I was asking, is his agent just terrible? What it actually was is when he signed that contract with the Marlins, he had more value in like a long-term contract and to be set for life for his family.
Right.
So he knew that there was a chance he could outperform the contract. So it seems like he's a guy where he still had years left on that Miami contract for Milwaukee. So basically what they did is they gave him a raise for the years that were left on that contract, but over a longer period of time, he wasn't going to make as much money. Because he would have been making like $6 million over the course of the next 2 years, like $6 million per year.
Yeah, and
so that kind of like explained more to me why he signed that extension as somebody who just won an MVP.
Especially that extension was so cheap.
Right.
If you're the Brewers.
But they were pretty much giving him a raise in the short term compared to the long-term years.
But I think he's thinking is like, hey, I only have, I mean, I don't know how many more years Yelich has on top. Maybe 4 tops?
What
Yelich being on the top of his game.
I mean,
I know he's not
young.
old. He's 27,
yeah.
28.
I don't know.
So
and the thing
when did
about,
Pujols get his big contract?
way too late in his career.
Right.
That was like the one that should be showing everybody. But the thing about when you bring up Bryce Harper, there's a lot of people that say, when you say how many years does Yelich have left, there's a lot of guys out there and like nerds and science people and analytics. I hate when people categorize it like that. It's like, oh, you actually study the numbers about something you care about.
That's what the sport's about.
Right. Of course. And Bill James came out recently, the guy who started all these analytics, and basically said that baseball is boring to watch. It's like, well, you made it that way, so.
Thanks.
But no, getting back to the Harper thing, a lot of guys say that once you're 28, like, you've already played your best baseball. So, like, I know when you shrug your shoulders like that, but these are people who study it and say you can still get good production later on, but it's like your peak is around the time when you're
If
28.
you're talking about just the money itself,
I'm 28. I definitely feel like I'm way past my peak, so I mean,
no, but
it's all downhill from here.
I think 25 is the peak that we all
I'm
have.
28, but
like,
I'm 28, but it's a rough 28. It's closer to 35.
I'm fat Rob for a reason, you know. I don't even know how old Rob is, but
and this is also coming. This is coming from Stretch as a guy who they just traded their best player in however many years because they didn't have the money to spend because the old GM put them into that position.
The fucking Red Sox have all the money to spend. I'm not going to say they
so
don't.
you're even on that side too, but when it's your own team, you don't want the. What, like, do you know
No,
the
but who
owner?
the fuck? No, but who are we? Who are they going to sign? That's going to like who are we trying to sign? Like Mookie Betts was.
No, that
top
was
three player in baseball.
That was the joke we said in the podcast. Is like all this money we save from getting rid of Mookie Betts, we can almost sign a guy like Mookie Betts.
Yeah, but if I'm a Cubs fan, I'm not going to go out there and say we need to sign some. We busted money on you, Darvish.
Right.
Is it worth it? No.
And then it comes out too, that makes you even more mad, is like all the studies that show how much money they actually didn't save.
Right.
By paying Price's contract, by the guys that we're going to wind up signing anyways, all that kind of stuff. I don't have it looked up or anything. I was not as prepared as I should have been. But there's a lot of stuff out there about they barely even saved any money by doing it. And it's just.
And you made your team so much less competitive. I mean, JD Martinez is great because Mookie Betts is right in front of him.
Right. And then it's even going to hurt more when he goes to LA and he's awesome there because he's going to be awesome anywhere.
Right. I mean, that lineup is nasty.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put Bellinger and Mookie Betts right next to each other. Cool.
All right.
I'm sure Jeff's happy about it.
Well, I mean, if you know anything about the Dodgers, you know Jeff. I mean, they're just going to wind up making it and losing in the World Series or the round before that.
Well, there's probably going to be a cheating scandal.
I did hear somebody saying that the team that's pushing for empty stadiums is the Astros. They're like, we don't want anybody in the stadium. Like, we don't want any media in the locker room. We want to have all of our shit like nobody there. I'm like, all right, that's a good one. I didn't see that. It was probably somebody made it on Twitter like a week ago, but I just heard it yesterday. I thought
our
it was
name's
funny.
in the dirt right now. Let's just try to elevate a little bit, and then we'll get there. I swear.
Can you explain yourself as like a Boston fan? Like, why the fuck are you trading Mookie Betts?
Who trades Mook? I swear to God.
I gotta get into
Who's going to trade Mook?
I gotta get into who the fuck trades Mookie Betts?
It's the easiest chant at the stadium. Mook. I'm just saying.
You out of your fucking mind, kid?
Oh my God! There goes your Fenway Frank sales. There goes your beer sales. I'm going to the Garden for a game. I'm just saying. I will not go to Fenway.
Fucking A.
The traffic's terrible there, anyways. I can't do it. Good luck selling out a 28,000 seat stadium.
So getting into, anything else on baseball, getting into the NFL, it's the same thing. We're kind of in like a holding pattern, waiting for things to happen. For the billionth time, Dak Prescott. I know it's the Dak Prescott podcast, but that's like the biggest signing this season. As far as like somebody re-signing a quarterback with a contract, and maybe the same people don't listen every week. If they do, then you already know what we're gonna say. But they offered him a contract. I think it was 33. And if you're somebody defending Dak Prescott that he should get money, when I heard that, I was like, okay, that sounds kind of fair. Like,
you think the Patriots are gonna I don't know if Dak Prescott for some reason makes it to free agency, they'll go ahead and sign Dak Prescott?
It doesn't seem like something they would do.
But if they're gonna spend that money anyways,
right. But if you spent all this time, it'll be interesting to see if Brady does leave, who their next quarterback winds up being. Because if you spent all this time not paying Tom Brady, you're not going to go out there and spend like $30 million on a Jameis Winston or a Dak Prescott, right? Like,
why would you going to spend 25 on Mariota?
Maybe they would draft somebody. I think Bill Belichick is one of those guys who think. Look what he did with Jacoby Brissett. Look what he's done with all the other backup quarterbacks. Look what he did when Garoppolo played. I saw something today. Somebody was trying to make the argument of if Brady and Garoppolo switch spots. That would be like the opposite of a Patriots move. That would be like, is it John Lynch who I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
It would be like kind of like a Belichickian move for John Lynch to get all that value for Garoppolo and then send him back. I don't think Belichick would do this, but I don't think that he would give up Garoppolo for only like a second round pick and then get him back for what essentially would be a trade. And I don't know. I don't know how much better off either team would be. Belichick obviously likes Garoppolo. He didn't want to get rid of him.
Right, but you're not going to. Here's the thing: like Belichick avoided a media storm with by trading Garoppolo away, so he can have Tom Brady in his prime still. And then you could see what Garoppolo has on tape
in his prime. I don't think Brady would necessarily be described as in his prime.
He still won a Super Bowl.
But also at the same time, if you're Kyle Shanahan and you think that your offense you can make anybody win, why would you? Well, like whoever gets Brady, whether it's the Patriots or another team, he obviously wants a lot of money. So like, why would you spend all this money on a guy if you think you could just do? I think one of the it sounds funny, but one of my more interesting things is where does Jameis go? Because that instantly becomes like the red zone team, where it's like, all right, you're watching football on Sunday, it's 104. And it's like, what the fuck? How is it? How did he already?
14-0?
No, 7-7. It's like, well, Jameis threw a touchdown and he also threw a pick six. I'm like, all right, I'm glad I took the over, but this is definitely going to be entertaining to watch. But imagine him going to like the 49ers or something like that in Kyle Shanahan's offense.
You know how much I hate Jameis Winston as a
because he went to Florida State.
Right. But I love Jameis Winston, but like he has never played behind a good offensive line. And he threw for 5,000 yards. Like that. Not many people do that still, even though the league is patented towards throwing a lot of yards. Not many people did it, So if you put Jameis behind an offensive line that's actually going to protect him and not get him sacked 50 times a year, I'm going to say he cuts down half of those picks.
Right. Like Chase just said that it's the Dolphins' time. They kind of hold a lot of cards in this draft. And it will be interesting, too, to see because if they get like a stopgap quarterback, I don't think anyone thinks Ryan Fitzpatrick is like the long-term answer there. But
they still have Josh Rosen, right, who's going to get traded for the fourth time in 3 years?
That's a guy who I was not even thinking about. Like, I could never think about him again, and that's as much as I've thought about
How bad is he that he was, what was he, number 7, 8?
Well, how bad would it be that they already moved on from him in Arizona? And that can kind of be explained by they wanted Kyler Murray to go pair with Kingsbury. But then he goes to the Dolphins and he can't even beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick, which I'm not saying Ryan Fitzpatrick sucks, but like if it's a tie, it usually goes to the younger guy. That means it wasn't even close.
It's like Ryan Fitzpatrick is this amazing tutor for quarterbacks. Like nothing has ever come past Fitzpatrick. It's just like, look at this.
You would think that if it was a tie, you give it to the younger guy and see if he can improve.
Right.
That means to me that it wasn't even close. Mm-hmm. So I'm not super interested in where Josh Rosen goes, but the Dolphins could be an interesting team next year if you believe that Flores is a really good coach. Looking at people were expecting them to win like 1 or 2 games last year, and they actually wound up having a decent season for what they were expected to do.
Oh, of course.
I think they have 3 first-round picks.
They traded away half their defense last year and still won games.
Yeah, the Minka Fitzpatrick thing you could say would just, either way, I mean, he's a really good player, but if he didn't want to be there and you got a first-round pick for him anyways, I mean,
you're winning.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, they have a great cap space to make whatever move they want too. Why not?
Yeah, he said Tua's going to be a bust and the Lions can have him. I don't really know how I feel about the Lions right now. I've seen a lot of stuff, and I know everyone around this time of year is like putting out smoke screens for what's going to happen in the draft. I think Washington has the second pick, right?
Yeah.
So they're out there saying like, oh, we might draft one of these quarterbacks. You got to draft up and get him. Well, you say that, you make that face, but think about what happened with Trubisky and the 49ers. The 49ers, was it the Bears?
It was the Bears.
Yeah, the 49ers had like the second pick. They got all of this to move back one pick, and they were never going to pick Trubisky anyways.
Right.
And now if you see teams like the Saints or like the 49ers, if you execute in the draft, if you have one really good draft, like when they got, I think it was like Kamara and whoever the safety was for the Saints, if you see all the defensive linemen that the 49ers have drafted over and over in the top 10, like the free agency is where all the names are and the big splashes are, but if you can nail like one or two draft classes in a row and you have a somewhat confident
you don't build your
quarterback,
team in free agency.
that's what I'm saying. So when we talk about all this free agency stuff, where's Brady going to go? Where are these quarterbacks going to go? It is interesting because in this year it's more quarterbacks than it's ever been. It's changing teams. But when it comes down to the draft this year, if you have a team like the Lions who could get multiple picks if they want to move back, or the Dolphins who already have multiple picks, you could see a team get better in a hurry.
So do you think like the Lions might want to trade up for one of these quarterbacks?
No, I think they're more likely to trade back. I don't think they necessarily want to take a quarterback. I think they want to trade back for a team that wants to take a quarterback. And the guy I keep seeing them pick is Jeff Okudah, the cornerback for Ohio State. And I went over this last week. My threshold for talent for Ohio State being on the Lions is Chase Young.
Man, that guy is good.
I don't care how good Jeff Okudah is, and especially after seeing the combine, and you don't want to be tricked by the combine, but Isaiah Simmons I was talking about last week.
Oh, what a fast man.
We could stay at 3 right where we are now and pick him, and I'll be happy. As long as it's not a fucking tight end. I'll tell you one thing, and you can listen to me. You can listen to me, look into my eyes, and believe this is true.
You already got a tight end, right?
You can believe this is true. I know it's not going to happen. If we draft a tight end in the first round, not a Lions fan anymore. I'm changing.
Is that a quote?
Yeah, I'll pick something else. I know it, but I already know it's not going to happen. I'm just saying, listen to me good. After you sign Jesse James, and then you draft T.J. Hawkinson, and then Eric Ebron is going to the Pro Bowl for the Colts, I'm not doing it anymore. That's the final straw. You can make Barry Sanders retire early. You can make Calvin Johnson retire early. I'm still here. Draft another tight end. You don't want to.
I think you guys need another tight end.
You don't want to make an enemy out of me.
You got a very specific skill set.
Believe me.
I will find you.
But to Chase's point, if Tua is going to be a bust, the Lions can have him. I mean,
it came out today. His scans came back positive today.
Right. It's one of those things though where like everyone talks about, and I talk about it too, is Drew Brees. When he had the shoulder injury and the Dolphins had a chance to get him. But if he goes to the Dolphins, he's probably not the Drew Brees that we're seeing now.
No, because he doesn't have Sean Payton.
Right, and he's on the Dolphins.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Peyton Manning, when he's coming off his neck injury, if he doesn't go to Denver, where does he go? He's still going to be great, though.
I mean, I would venture to say that he wasn't great when he was on Denver. I know you won a Super Bowl. I know you love Peyton Manning.
He has the record for most touchdowns ever in a season.
Okay.
I'm just saying. That's pretty great.
Not the season that they won the Super Bowl. He didn't do that with Denver, did he?
Yes.
What, the first Denver season?
Yes.
Are you sure? How many was it?
55?
Oh, that's pretty good. But
yeah, it's really good.
But then the second season he had
I think it's best all time.
But then the second season he had wait till Jameis has his eyesight fixed out. Just wait a goddamn minute there, Rondell. No, but I mean, but the year that he won the Super Bowl, it's no dispute that Peyton Manning was not good that year. He threw 16 touchdowns, 18 picks or some shit like that.
Brees broke the all-time touchdown record.
Wait, are you talking about? Are you talking about Drew Brees? Or are you talking about? Yeah, that's who I was talking about.
Yeah,
right.
And has the all-time.
But the year that they won the
season record for touchdowns.
But the year that they won the Super Bowl, he was not good.
No, he was not.
That's all I was saying.
But he was still good enough to win a Super Bowl. That defense was absurdly good.
The defense is what won the Super Bowl, right? It was like the 49ers almost this year. I mean, Garoppolo wasn't that bad, but
Garoppolo just needed to not throw interceptions, or
no, they would have won that game. They just needed to not play against Patrick Mahomes. That was the key.
No, you're right. It was 55.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Niners had any more confident of a
the year
quarterback,
they lost
they
to the
would have won.
Seahawks, I think I've told this story before. The year that they lost to the Seahawks, I had.
That was a great year.
So this is like the all-time for bet. Well, I have a million all-time for bettings, but I had the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl, but I also had the under, and I think the Seahawks like single-handedly scored more points than the total was.
I believe that.
I mean, I was so happy in the first like 10 minutes. Like the first snap goes over Peyton Manning's head into the end zone.
I think the end of this year was like 48-8 or something like that. I was like, oh, this is fun. Bo walked home.
But yeah, Bo walked home. You said.
Bo walked home from that game. We were all at Paul's house, and he literally walked home at the end of the third quarter.
Well, if you want to get into March Madness memories, and I was telling Kenny about this at work, and he was laughing his ass off. I was like, I was talking about like March Madness memories. I was like, yeah, you know, like I'll still be like the same thing I just did with the Lions. I'm like, I'll still be a Michigan fan. You know, they can lose to Louisville, and I'll cry in a Smokey Bones bathroom. That's fine. They can lose to Villanova, and
you might not be able to cry in a Smokey Bones bathroom.
Not for too much longer. Yeah, I mean that's what I've heard.
Neither here nor there. But.
Waterford update. I mean they've been saying they've been closing that place forever though.
Well, it's gonna be at Twin Peaks.
Does anybody still go there?
I've seen 4 people there.
Is it just a front? I don't know. I don't want to put anybody's
Maybe.
business out there.
I'm just saying.
But yeah, and then they can lose to Villanova, and I just slam stuff at Ale House, and they still welcome me back, and you know, it is what it is. But I'm excited for March Madness. There was one year when Michigan was going on that one run. I think it was to the Louisville championship, and I was on some bus to downtown somehow. It was like a party bus or something. I grabbed both rails after Michigan won, and I grabbed the rails, and I did like a flip. And I mean, it was fun. People. Yeah.
You did a flip.
Oh, I had the bars in the top, and I flipped like this.
Oh, okay.
It was gymnastics. I think he's gonna drop Detox and do like a listening party at Smokey Bones. That's what I heard. I mean, by the time that comes out. Did you want to get into back to any baseball stuff? Predictions for how the Cubs are gonna do this year? Anything as far as like the World Series? You have any bold predictions?
Bold predictions?
I kind of dipped my toe into it earlier, but I said after this last weekend. And I don't want to sound like prisoner of the moment, but after watching the Lakers and thinking about it on Monday and thinking about it a lot today and listening to other podcasts and stuff, I kind of think the Lakers are going to win the championship this year. I'm not going out on a limb. I know they're like one of the favorites. But when it comes down to it, and I spent a lot of my life hating LeBron James because he was from Ohio and the whole stupid thing like that. And then with the Heat, I rooted against him. I wanted the Mavericks to win that championship, but he couldn't back down J.J. Barea. And then I got to the point where I'm like, am I going to spend my whole like sports watching life watching the Michael Jordan of my time and just hating on him? Like, is that who I want to be? So I just started like appreciating more. And then by the time it came to like the Cleveland series against the Warriors, I was like the biggest defender of LeBron and all that kind of stuff. So
your bold prediction is the Lakers are going to win?
I don't know if it's a bold prediction, but like after thinking about it and after watching it this past weekend, when it comes down to it, I'm not even trusting in Anthony Davis. Like, he might be a better player than LeBron.
Even when that team doesn't play their best game, they win.
Right. And if it comes down, and I might be wrong, I might not end up being wrong, but if it comes down to Giannis versus LeBron, I'm going to take the guy who's been there and done it before.
Right.
When it comes to a big moment, a guy who can get his shot. He's basically a point guard this year. So, yeah, that's my bold prediction, I guess, on whatever day you want to mark it down, March 11th. But I know you're a Lakers fan, so you're not going to be out there like disagreeing with me or anything. But
no, but I'm not going to disagree with you just because of what I've seen.
I think a lot of other teams have flaws. I think the Clippers can absolutely compete with them if they're healthy in the playoffs and if everybody's playing every night and they're engaged. I don't really see any of the other teams pulling upsets, though. And now I know this is going to mean like Denver's going to make some deep run or something like that. But you saw it happen with the Rockets. They were playing a similar style, and then over the past weekend, I think Harden was like 7 for 59 from 3 over the course of like 2 or 3 games.
Makes me so happy.
It could have been a 1 game. I don't know for the way that they shoot threes, but it's just. Oh, that's what I wanted to get into too before I forgot. Is the Charles Barkley and Draymond Green thing. You just kind of found out before the show a little bit, but whose side do you tend to be on in that? And I mean, if people forget, and I'm not old enough to have watched it live, but I go back and watch games and I know about Charles Barkley. He's a much better player, Stretch, am I right, than Draymond ever was.
I mean, Charles Barkley was dominant.
But a large part of the generation, probably even a lot of people watching, only know
he
Charles.
Was one of the talents stolen on Space Jam. He was good.
All right, that's all you need to say.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah, he was on the Toon Squad.
No, he was on Monstars, bro.
Well, technically, yeah. I don't know. wait till C-Jam comes out. That'll come out before Smokey Bones closes. They're doing a screening there. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the Barkley versus Draymond thing, for Draymond to say, and he's a smart player, but for him to say that Charles Barkley is not qualified to talk about basketball with him, and people always bring up.
True. Sean Bradley.
Was also in Space Jam.
Oh, what does he say? The Astros? What is that? They kind of threw me off with that.
I don't know, but Sean Bradley, they needed one
Who
guy.
were all those people on Space Jam? Do you remember who everyone was?
Yeah.
Was Muggsy
Bogues.
I knew it. I didn't want to say it because I thought it would sound stupid.
Larry,
He was
Larry
one of them.
Johnson was on it, right? Then Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, and Sean Bradley.
All right, yeah, pretty good team.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting back to the Barkley versus Draymond thing, for I know it's just like a media beef, but I found it interesting. But for Draymond to say like you're not qualified to talk about basketball with me, and to say that you can't sit at this table because you have no rings. If you were in Charles Barkley's position and you were on the teams that Barkley was on, if you switch those players, they're not making it as far. And
No.
And keep in mind, Charles Barkley lost because of Michael Jordan. Like it wasn't like he was the best player on the team and he was losing because he was playing against Michael Jordan.
I think Draymond's like a coup coach.
Tony Kukoc? No.
He's like a coup coach.
No, I think Draymond is better than that. But for him to just be like that disrespectful and like say I'm going to come take your job. And then of course Barkley is like the best talker, so he comes back and says Draymond has a face for radio, which everybody's heard that before. It's like I'm like, why are we even broadcasting this in video? Like people don't need to see us.
I mean, Barkley doesn't even have a voice for radio, so it is what it is.
No, Charles Barkley is like one of my favorite like media people, and for Draymond to say something like that, it's just like, come on, I know it's not a big deal, but I just wanted to get to it because it's one of the big things.
Right. So I mean, if you want to go like make your bold prediction, who makes the World Series this year? I like that. The Astros won't make the playoffs. Bold prediction.
Who said that?
Right here. Nizzo.
You know what I'm rooting for is the Astros to win the World Series. How funny would that be? I want it to be like, I don't know, like,
Astros, Dodgers.
yeah, Astros, Cubs.
Nah, I'm good.
No?
No, I mean, if the Cubs make the World Series again, yeah, absolutely, I'm down for that. But
I'm more excited for this baseball season than
I
I've been
want
in
to
a
see
while.
the Astros do so bad.
I wonder if you see like their TV ratings, like those, they got to put them on TV all the time, right? If you're baseball,
Right.
you want people to watch.
Well, I mean, you get your packages. I mean, they don't play. It's all fucking local shit.
No, but I
so-
mean like the national games that they play, like when they play like Sunday Night Baseball.
Of course,
and
you want to see how many Astros players get hit every
Yeah,
game.
I want to do that bet just because I want to be invested in seeing this happen.
The over/under on how many punts there are.
There was the over/under in that, and then there was also the over/under in Astros charging the mound. So I think that was like 1.5, which I was like, you have to go over on that.
No,
right?
you go under because they know.
What? They don't.
It's like the guilty dog that gets his nose rubbed in shit.
Do they seem like they know to you?
Yes.
What have they said so far that seems like
They're
been
not
trying- that they
speaking
know?
because they're told not to speak about it.
No, they have spoken, and they're basically
Who has
told,
spoken about it?
I think it was Correa that told everybody that
They
he
said, "I'm sorry."
No, they said they didn't know the facts. It was somebody who was saying like, you got to learn the facts. You don't know what you're talking about. You didn't hear
Sounds
about
like
that?
everybody in denial. You got to learn the facts about the whole situation before you do anything.
You didn't hear those? One of the who was it? Stretch. One of the Astros players said like, "Oh, you don't know the facts. Like everybody, shut up." Or
Then it
whatever.
came out last week that the pitching coach was teaching like improper pitches to like messing with the ball to make a spin rate go up.
To the other team. Or who was the guy? There was a guy that for the other team was giving like illegal substances like pine tar and shit like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want the Astros in the World Series for sure.
No, I mean for what it's worth, the Yankees look fucking so good, man.
What do you mean the Yankees look so good
They
right now?
look good,
You're
man.
talking about I think it was Stanton or Judge. One of them has like a broken rib. The other one's
Right.
always injured. Severino's out for the season.
With health not being an issue.
But you could say that every year for the Yankees. That's what it was last year. Everybody last year was like, oh, the Yankees.
They still won 100 games last year.
Right, but all the players are hurt again this year.
They have better
They already
pitching
fired
this
their
year.
training staff. They can't fire them again.
You're trying to make me argue against the Yankees, and I would love to. They just look good.
That's why I'm surprised. Like, what do you mean they look good?
They just look good. If you
Oh.
watch, like, I'm not saying like spring training means shit, but
The only
it
thing
kind of does.
The only thing I know about spring training so far is that Garrett Cole gave up 3 home runs against the Tigers. And that's probably the highlight of our season. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, Craig Kimbrell has a like 18 ERA through a half an inning pitch. That's cool too. But out of the National League, you got to think the Dodgers are the favorite. The Braves are gonna be fucking good again.
I'll pull up the favorites right now. I like the Braves because it's always been they've been a little bit ahead of schedule. Like even last year, it was like okay, they're a little bit ahead of schedule. This seems like this is the year they were expected to compete for a World Series, right?
Right. I don't think they had that veteran presence in the locker room. They just added Cole Hamels. Again, they did lose Josh Donaldson,
Man,
but
talk about a guy who's been in the fucking league forever.
hey, man, change-ups don't fade. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
Legends
the guy
never
can
die,
still-
is that what you're saying?
I'm not calling Cole Hamels a legend, but he has pitched a no-hitter and won a World Series. So
No, it was a Sandlot reference. Heroes get remembered, legends never die.
right. But Cole Hamels is going to be able to bring something to that pitching staff just to teach them a little bit about, working around rough times. And that's the reason why they lost last year. Is they got in the playoffs and they didn't know how to pitch again. And that pitching staff's pretty freaking good.
So you have right now the Dodgers are 3.5 to 1, and
the Yankees, I'm
Yankees
sorry.
are pretty much 3.5 to 1.
I mean,
plus
is that just
340.
because of the Yankees?
Yeah, I mean, you always have to.
I mean, the Red Sox are still up there, but who the fuck do the Red Sox have?
No, this is not listed in order or anything like that.
Heard.
The Astros are. I mean, the Red Sox are 25 to 1. So, no, it's Yankees and Dodgers. But when you say the Yankees have looked really good, isn't everybody hurt? You know more about baseball than me, but everybody's hurt, right?
They have two guys that are hurt. Well,
They're
no.
highest paid players.
Stanton's not hurt. Severino's not hurt.
Stanton will be hurt. If he's not hurt yet,
Well, no
he will
shit,
be hurt.
Stanton's hurt. He gets hurt for 70 games a year. But hopefully it's on the beginning of the season, not the end. And then Aaron Judge has no idea what's going wrong with him, so at the end of the day, they're just not playing him in spring training.
But to your point, when you're talking about betting, I only ever use it as a metric for these people are putting out odds there because they want to eventually, Vegas wants to win money. What I'm saying is you have to take the Yankees or the Red Sox with a grain of salt because they know people are going to bet on them anyways.
Right.
So they don't have to make the true odds. The true odds are probably Yankees 5 to 1 or something like that. But they know everyone's going to bet on the Yankees. 27 rings, bro.
But what are the Dodgers at right now?
Yeah,
2.5?
but these are also high bet on teams. The Dodgers made the biggest move in the offseason. I think you get pretty good value at 12 to 1 for the Braves. That's pretty good value.
Absolutely.
Braves 12 to 1. Astros still the third favorite, 6 to 1. I mean, everything that happened, they still have all those players. So, I wouldn't bet it at 6 to 1. I don't think it's great value, but unless you think that all those players were only good because of the cheating, I tend to be on the side that they were better because of the cheating. Same thing for steroids.
And they were still good?
Right, same thing for steroids. It doesn't make you hit from 10 home runs to 50. It probably makes you go from 40 to 50.
Right.
Something like that.
But
The whiffer. That's what Poppy calls it, the whiffer. Kukoc stats. No rangs in a decade, yeah. Oh, man. Not to rain on Stretch's parade, but I was just, as a Detroit sports fan, I always have to just bring up the Knicks. Did you happen to see the Knicks all-decade team?
No.
Can you do me a favor while we're
God.
talking and just pull up the Knicks all-decade team real quick, and then I can. Okay, I'll do it then.
Is Phil Jackson on that?
Why is it an all-decade team?
Every team just does stuff like that, all-decade teams. We'll do a quick exercise here.
Well, Carmelo's got to be on it still, right?
Yeah.
Just for one.
We'll see how many Stretch can guess. Think about it while I'm pulling it up. How many? Who is? So you said Carmelo already. Who do you think? Who do you think the head coach is?
The all-decade team?
Yeah. If you guys want to comment in, if anybody's still watching, we're talking about the Knicks all-decade team. If you want to comment in any of your guesses, don't look it up.
Solid squad.
It's not Buck Williams, is it?
No. Just think about head coach and then all the positions, point guard. And we'll keep talking about baseball for a second. So Astros basically are still 6 to 1. It's pretty good value, or not good value like we were saying.
Well, they're going to get runners on
Mike
base.
D'Antoni or Mike Woodson?
Mike Woodson. Point guard?
Randy Felton?
Yeah, you got it. Shooting guard? Funny. By the way, if I looked up the Pistons all-decade team, I'm sure it would be a travesty too. I mean, we have not been a picture of dominance this decade.
You have two players?
The shooting guard, no, I mean, you have, no, it's at the same time, it's super obvious. They did this on the Levitard show too, so I have to steal from that. But the shooting guard is obvious, but you'll also laugh at it. It's J.R. Smith. You already said Carmelo for small forward, power forward. That one's kind of obvious, I guess, but
Porzingis?
yeah.
Porzingis?
And then the center.
Tyson Chandler?
Just some of the honorable mentions for the Knicks all-decade
God.
team. Amari Stoudemire, Jeremy Lin, This one will get you. Pablo Prigioni. Steve Novak, Lance Thomas.
They didn't put Danilo Gallinari on there?
No. How long was he there for?
Long enough.
Really? I mean, if you're going to put Jeremy Lin on there, you could put anybody on there.
You can put Raymond Felton on it, you can put
That was 2 weeks.
I'm disgusted that I knew that.
But yeah, those are the all-decade team for the Knicks. None of those guys are definitely not in Bundesliga. Did you have anything else?
No, I got nothing, man.
All right, yeah.
The Bundesliga.
Next week, Bundesliga all-decade team.